defy segregation in every form of life possible. And they were applied to marriage in the form of anti-miscegenation laws. Something like 35 states in the United States eventually enacted laws that made it a criminal offense to marry across what was considered to be the racial bar. And religious justifications of the most profound kind were offered for this anti-miscegenation legislation. 101 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was put into effect, the Supreme Court of the United States did declare that those anti-miscegenation laws did violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, but it took quite a long time before social attitudes sort of began to change in accord with those kinds of decisions. Now, I think it's very easy to say that registered domestic partnerships or even omnibus legislation that gives partial recognition by assimilating same-sex partners to the status of cohabitant is an improvement. But the other problem with it is that it is totally segregating. It creates complete segregation in the law. It is separate and it is not equal. I think that there's absolutely no basis for claiming that it is equal. Now, where does this leave us? Well, I think that, to get very quickly to my last point, where this leaves us is in a very difficult position. British Columbia will be looking at its legislation very quickly, I think. M&H has sort of lit a fire that is going to spur that on. The Ontario government has until November 20th to do something. And what? Will it look like Bill 167, which left same-sex partners out of all of the marriage rules? Or will it look like a registered domestic partnership? It's going to look like one of the two. There are no other models out there. The Law Commission of Canada has funded a major conference to be held at Queen's University on the advantages of domestic registered partnerships for Canada. I didn't organize it. And it does have a session on other alternatives to registered domestic partnerships. But I think that that's a pretty good signal for people who are looking for signals that registered domestic partnership legislation is looking pretty attractive to parliamentarians. Now, there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. The chairs of this CBO committee have decided that they are going to schedule a large working session in September, which will basically be set up as a consultative meeting in which people who are concerned about the legal capacities of sexual minorities in Ontario can give their opinions on what forms of legislative recognition they would like to see. So I urge you to tell everyone about this meeting and come to it being prepared to get involved, because I think that it's probably going to be the best chance to try to head off the insertion of legislation into Ontario statutes that will be very difficult to fight when we're down to the Section 1 Oakes test. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Kathy. As always, you've been very provocative and given us a lot of food for thought. I must say, I was, when you were talking about the parallels with race, I was thinking about some of the cases. I don't know anyone here is familiar with them, but of course, Governor Simcoe tried to limit the introduction of slavery into Canada, and in the days of the Underground Railway, there were many cases that took place here in Osgoode Hall where, as our judges wrestled with allegations that runaway slaves had committed crimes and therefore ought to be extradited back to the United States, and the whole question of how to deal with the fact that that was going to deprive them of their personhood when they were returned to that other jurisdiction. It appears that our fearless leader, the treasurer of the Law Society, is not here, and I assume that's because the reception that he's holding, his second annual reception in honor of Pride Week, was scheduled to begin at 5 o'clock, and we are now overlapping with that, and I suspect that he is awaiting us upstairs. So on his behalf, wearing my other hat as co-chair of the Treasurers Equity Advisory Group, let me extend the thanks of the Law Society of Upper Canada to everybody who participated in today's program. It was very enjoyable. And may I now invite you to join the Treasurer and other members of the legal profession upstairs in Convocation Hall to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Stonewall, and to celebrate the 5th anniversary of our committee, and to celebrate perhaps the greatest legal victory ever for our community this year in MNH. Thank you all very much.